GPU cooler, CPU cooler. Why not both? The plan is to remove these fins and expose the back of the plate that contacts the die, and then bolt a CPU tower to it, creating a second path for the heat to escape. That's my theory anyway. I'm gonna need a bigger grinder. That was a pretty shit time. Looks flat to me. I'm using a 1060 by the way, because this cooler will go straight onto my 1070 and my 1080 Ti. So if it works on the 1060, we can try it on those hotter cards as well. I probably should have measured the cooler and marked the holes before I just drilled blindly. If all I do here is fuck up a perfectly good cooler, at least it's only a 1060 and not something that owes me money. Actually, I've just realized that I've cut up the 1070's cooler, but luckily they're the same. Before I bolt this on, I've already tested it stock, but I'm going to test it again now with the fins removed and see what changed. Obviously the stock fans don't fit anymore, so from here on in, it's this 120mm fan. All of the fans have been at 100%. I wasn't expecting it to get cooler, so clearly the fins I removed weren't doing much, and this one fan is doing more work than the 3 stock fans. Let's see what 2 coolers can do. The bolt I installed is contacting part of this plate, so this little piece has to go. I've either just wasted 3 hours or made the coldest air-cooled 1060 in history. It worked better than I expected, which was basically for it to not work at all. So if a single tower can do that, what about a dual tower? I just need to make one tiny adjustment for it to fit. That's tube number 4 this week empty. Let's see if double the heatsink gets us double the cooling, or if we already found the limit with the single tower. So it looks like the single tower was getting us all of the cooling that we were going to get. I'm going to leave this one on there though because it just looks cooler. Before we move on to the 1070 and the 1080 Ti, it'd be a shame not to overclock it when it looks like this. Not exactly world record breaking, but not bad for a $20 cooler and a grinder. The 1060 was never that hard to cool anyway. Let's try the 1070. So it worked on the 1060, but that's not a very hard card to cool. Let's give it a bit more work to do. After the 1060 only lost about 6 or 7 degrees, I didn't have much hope this was going to work, to be honest. But 20 degrees on the 1070 is pretty wild. Also, I think it's worth noting that it's using less power and holding a higher clock. But is it cool enough now to hit 2200 megahertz? Technically it can hit 2200 megahertz, but I wouldn't call it stable. After the 1060, I wasn't that impressed, but after that, I'm keen to see what happens with the 1080 Ti. The 1080 Ti is a bit different because its stock heatsink is nearly twice the thickness of the 1060 heatsink that I've been modifying. So for the sake of science, I'll have to do the stock testing with both heatsinks. The 1060 cooler won't fit over the 1080 Ti's heat spreader. This is the heat spreader for the VRAM that needs to go on. The 1080 Ti has 2 caps here that the 1060 and 1070 don't have. Not that it bloody needs it anyway. You look here, the 1070 had 2 chips that were never cooled. I just prefer to skip the comments about it this week. Looks like we need to move a few fins as well. Now we know what we have to beat. Now let's see what happens when we put it on something that pulls 300 watts. Over 20 degrees cooler. It'd be foolish not to overclock it. The overclocking results were not that impressive, but you have to remember we were starting at 2000 MHz, not 1800 and something. Now usually this is the part I would say, it wasn't worth it, don't bother. But I kind of think this one was. The hotter cards benefited more, but all three cards were able to hold higher clocks using less power. So if you are able to find yourself a cheap GPU heatsink and you have access to a grinder, I say go for it. Just maybe don't cut up the only cooler that you have.